Our movie begins with the preparations for a wedding ceremony, and we see Heather standing by the window, looking out with sadness in her eyes, until her friend comes in and calls her. Then the story jumps back 8 months earlier, where we see Heather with her friends Amy and Connie running to catch the subway so they can continue their vacation trip. Their plan is to travel through several countries, visiting famous landmarks, taking pictures together, and creating memories. Later, while riding the subway on their way to their final stop, which happens to be Barcelona, Amy notices a bad boy type staring at her with eyes full of emotion. She immediately tells her friends that there's a handsome, muscular guy focusing only on her. When the guy moves past them, Amy suddenly leaves her friends behind and follows him. From Heather and Connie's conversation, we learn that Amy just wants to forget her ex-boyfriend who cheated on her. At that moment, a mysterious young man named Jack shows up, climbing onto the luggage rack right above Heather to sleep. Heather and Connie exchange puzzled looks at what he's doing. After a while, Jack wakes up and notices Heather reading The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. He interrupts her and admits that sleeping up there was a bad idea because his back hurts. When he asks her why she's still awake, she replies that she can't stop thinking. Jack then talks about the book, sharing his opinion on Hemingway, and says he finds it odd that a woman would read him, since women supposedly don't like him. Heather explains that she finds Hemingway captivating. That's why he got married 3 times, and she doesn't see that as a problem. She also points out that despite being a stranger, Jack keeps cutting in and continuing the conversation with her. Jack introduces himself, asks for her name, they shake hands, and he tells her that now they're not strangers anymore. Jack also asks her why she's headed to Barcelona on this night train, and she explains that it's the final stop of her vacation. When she turns the question back to him, he tells her he took the train to help himself focus on reading, then shows her that he's holding the exact same book she's reading. And right there, dear viewer, is where the very first spark of attraction between them begins. When they finally arrive at the station, Amy is still with the bad boy, while Jack sticks close to Heather and even introduces himself to Connie. As they continue walking, Amy rejoins them and excitedly tells them that the bad boy's name is Victor and that he invited them to a nightclub called Incendio. Soon after, Amy gets to know Jack and compliments the watch he's wearing. Eventually, the girls say goodbye to Jack and walk off without him even getting Heather's phone number. While wandering around the city together, Amy teases Heather, saying she's noticed some chemistry between her and Jack. Heather doesn't respond and instead gets distracted by soap bubbles floating in the air, and the 3 friends burst into laughter, playing with the bubbles in a moment of pure joy. Later that night at the nightclub, Amy is surprised when Jack shows up with his friend, Rafe. And if you're wondering how Jack knew the girls would be there, well, he had overheard Amy mentioning the club's name back at the train station. Anyway, Connie heads off to grab drinks with Rafe, while Jack asks Heather if they can step outside to talk away from the loud music. Outside, he admits that he came just to see her, and that he knew where to find her because of what Amy said. Heather asks Jack about his job, and he tells her that right now he's unemployed, but he's worked all kinds of jobs before. He was a janitor at a supermarket, washed cars, and even worked with a spiritual medium. In return, Heather shares that she's from Texas, studied in Boston, and will soon be moving to New York to start a job at a bank. And so, even though Heather and Jack are completely different from each other, Jack tells her that a wise man once said the best partners in love are those who are total opposites, perfect contradictions. But he quickly adds that this doesn't mean he wants her to be his girlfriend. At that moment, Rafe and Connie interrupt, and Connie admits to Heather that she and Rafe really hit it off, to the point where she's going back with him to the hotel where he's staying. She assumes that Heather will probably take Jack back to their place too, especially since Amy is still off with the bad boy she met, who has already taken her to a private party at his house. Later, Jack and Heather wander through the city together, and their quiet walk feels almost like a scene from Before Sunrise, where the 2 leads spend one magical night falling in love. During their stroll, Jack mentions Hemingway again, reminding her that the author was actually married 4 times, not 3. His 4th wife was Mary Welsh, and he lived with her for 15 years after giving up on his first 3 marriages. Strangely enough, Hemingway was later shot inside his own home. Heather laughs and playfully tells Jack not to depress himself, promising she'll never forget Mary Welsh again. Jack then suggests they do something crazy, ride the cable car up the tower. For someone like Heather, who's always been used to planning every step of her life, this kind of spontaneous adventure feels new and thrilling. Yet she follows Jack, drawn in by his carefree spirit. They make it to the top and board the cable car, and Jack opens up about his family, Jack telling her that his great-grandfather was a soldier during the World War and kept a diary, writing about his visit to the Sagrada Familia in this very city. Jack explains that by visiting the same places his great-grandfather once wrote about, he's honoring his memory. This revelation only deepens Heather's admiration for Jack, making her see him in an entirely new light. Heather admits to Jack that riding the cable car wasn't part of her plan and that she's not used to doing things like this. As the two keep talking, they slowly drift off to sleep, only to wake up in the morning shocked to find the cable car moving with them inside. They manage to sneak away from the security workers successfully. Later, they're waiting for Amy, confused as to why she's late since their train is about to depart soon. Just then, Amy arrives, shaken, and tells them that Victor, the so-called bad boy, turned out to be a thief who stole all her belongings, including her money and passport. The girls panic, worried and scared, but Jack steps in to save the situation. He convinces Amy to take them back to the house where the party had been. Amy tries hard to recall the address and the location until they finally track Victor down. When he tries to slam the door in their faces, Jack and Rafe stop him, forcing their way in. Victor runs away, afraid they'll call the police, and at last, the group recovers all of Amy's stolen things, along with a stash of cash, bundles of US dollars hidden away. Jack then suggests they postpone their train and spend a few more days together, having fun with Victor's money. Heather raises the moral question, assuming the cash is stolen, but Jack convinces them that Victor was the thief, not them. So it's fair to use the money since someone like Victor doesn't deserve it anyway. And here, dear viewer, I want you to tell me in the comments, do you agree with Jack's logic? Or do you think he's wrong? Either way, Jack and the group rent a shiny Mercedes and head out to enjoy themselves. Amy still feels upset, but the others cheer her up, reminding her that she's the reason they're experiencing this unexpected adventure. If Victor hadn't stolen from her, none of these magical moments would have happened. They eventually reach a beautiful spot where everyone wants to take pictures together. But strangely, Jack refuses to be in the photos. Instead, he lets the girls pose on their own while he steps aside, gazing out at the sea and quietly soaking in the beauty of nature. They all enjoy their time together, and after a while, Heather joins Connie and Amy in the water, where she confides in them that she and Jack shared a spark of attraction back in the cable car. Later, Jack tells Heather that this very place was once visited by his great-grandfather, then asks her to dance with him to the music of an old street performer, and together, they embrace the moment with pure spontaneity. While they're later on a boat ride, Amy reveals that she won't be returning home tomorrow as planned, that she has other things in mind, and the day passes with the group living it up, happy with every second they spend together. By the end of the night, Connie, Amy, and Rafe leave, leaving only Jack and Heather together. The two visit a historic site that Jack's great-grandfather once wrote about, and there Jack notices a girl more focused on taking selfies than actually experiencing the place. He tells Heather that people like her care more about showing others they're having fun than genuinely enjoying the moment, and that Gaudí, the genius architect, never built this masterpiece for people to flaunt themselves like that. Heather gets upset, asking Jack if that means when she and her friends were taking photos earlier, he thought of them as shallow too. She calls him a hypocrite, storms off, and Jack chases after her to apologize. She forgives him, and Jack offers to drive her to Bilbao, which she accepts. On the road, Jack opens up about his past, admitting he wasted too much of his life caring about what others thought of him. He even suffered a health scare that pushed him to stop worrying about the future and start living in the moment, which is why now he only cares about enjoying the present. Their journey ends when they arrive at the airport, and Jack, clearly moved, asks Heather to delay her flight. He tells her that in theory, nothing would change if she didn't leave today. She could always take another plane at any other time. He suggests they use the stolen money from Victor's house to keep enjoying life together. And to his delight, Heather agrees. The two set off to continue their day, choosing adventure over routine, passion over plans. Heather calls her father, who clearly loves her and cares deeply about her, and tells him that she'll be delaying her return a little while longer. Her father wishes her safety and reassures her. Jack, as always, ties the moment back to his family history, telling Heather that this bridge they're crossing was one his great-grandfather stood on, reflecting on the end of the war, writing in his diary about the hardships he faced back then. Soon after, Jack takes Heather to a luxurious house, and she's surprised, wondering why he brought her there. The residents of the house light up with joy at the sight of Jack and warmly welcome Heather too, showing that they clearly care about him. As they all sit together, they explain to Heather that Jack once came to them, telling them his great-grandfather had served alongside their own grandfather in the war. The night unfolds with laughter and happiness, everyone enjoying each other's company. At one point, Jack tells the family that Heather can play the guitar, and when she performs and sings, they are amazed at how talented she is. The evening ends with Heather and Jack falling asleep across from each other on the couch. The next morning, as the two spend more time together, Jack shares his belief that God, or the universe, or whatever name she prefers to give it, ultimately gives us what we truly want for ourselves. All we have to do, he says, is think about what we desire with every part of our being. Heather replies she doesn't really believe the universe works that way, but admits she hopes Jack is right. That night, the two grow even closer, their bond undeniable, and they finally make love. The following morning, Heather wakes to find Jack in the bathtub, reading his great-grandfather's wartime diaries. Jack tells her how much joy he's finding in retracing his ancestors' footsteps, visiting all the places that were once written about, and how he wishes he could keep living this way for the rest of his life. He then turns to Heather and asks what one question she would want to ask the universe and have answered. After a pause, Heather says she wishes she could know the purpose of her life. Later, the two of them ride a bus together, heading toward a bullfighting event, the journey continuing with mystery and anticipation. And once again, dear viewer, this was also a place Jack's great-grandfather once stood. Jack gets excited watching the running of the bulls, and in a moment of wild impulse, he jumps in to join, only to stumble and get injured. We then see him in the hospital, with Heather scolding him for his reckless macho stunt. Still, their journey continues. Heather eventually tells Jack it's time they stop spending the stolen money, and that they should move on. Jack surprises her by revealing that the stolen cash actually ran out 2 days ago. They've been living off his own savings since then. They carry on, following the footsteps written in his ancestor's diary. Heather later chats with Connie and Amy, and Connie shares that her relationship with Rafe is moving fast. Heather, in turn, admits she's been having an incredible time with Jack, so much so that they're practically living together now. She confesses that she hopes Jack will return with her to New York. It's clear she's fallen in love. She resolves to talk to him about it. One day, while on the train, Jack receives a phone call from the hospital. The doctors tell him there were troubling, unusual findings on his scans, and he should return immediately. Jack ignores their warning, choosing not to tell Heather. Later, while the two sit together over drinks, Heather discovers an extra sheet hidden inside the diary. On it, his great-grandfather wrote about a small village called Santa Pau, where the locals dance for 6 days straight during their festival, dancing, as he put it, in the face of death. The page nearly flies off the table, but they catch it just in time. Jack asks Heather to keep it safe, saying his great-grandfather must have wanted her to be the one to hold onto it. A little while later, Amy gets a call from her father, who checks in on her. Amy tells him about Jack, a respectful young man retracing his great-grandfather's steps from the war, honoring his memory, and suggests it's the kind of journey Jack might one day turn into a book. Jack overhears, and later, as he and Heather walk together, he confides in her. "I'm not doing this to write a book, or to profit from my travels. I'm doing this because I want to live. I want to honor my great-grandfather. I want to live in the moment, nothing more." Heather finally opens up to Jack, telling him that unlike him, she does care about the future. She admits she's anxious about leaving, about the fact that they're about to part ways. As for that whole book idea, she confesses she only mentioned it to make him look better in front of her father. Then, directly, she asks Jack to be honest with her. What's their future together? Is she the only one afraid that this is the end for them? Jack, uncomfortable, replies that he doesn't think about the future at all. He lives only in the present. Heather tells him that's the problem. She can't help but think ahead, and she's terrified of losing him. She presses him. "Will you board the plane with me or not?" Overwhelmed, Jack avoids answering, excuses himself, and goes for a walk. We see him sitting quietly, watching the world around him. Tourists snapping photos of themselves instead of living in the moment, while he simply breathes it all in. That night, he returns to Heather and tells her he's bought a ticket. He'll fly with her. They go together to one last place his great-grandfather once stood, where they plant a tree side by side. And for the first time, Jack actually agrees to take a picture with Heather, capturing a memory rather than just living it. Finally, at the airport, Everything seems settled. But then Jack receives a call from the oncology clinic. The news is bad. He has to come in immediately. His face drops. A shadow of truth he can't ignore. Moments later, he makes his decision, asking her to tell Heather he's just stepping away to the bathroom and will be right back. Insists he should leave his bag, but Jack refuses, joking lightly that he's used to its weight. Just before walking away, he tells her with tears held back that these past days were the happiest of his life. Heather, watching, finds his behavior strange. She asks him, half teasing, half worried, "Do you always act this weird just to use the bathroom?" He forces a smile, then walks off. Hours pass. Boarding time comes. Heather keeps waiting. She sends him message after message, but no reply. Thinking maybe he's already gone ahead, she boards the plane, only to finally receive one last text. "I'm truly sorry." She quickly types back, demanding to know what happened. But her message doesn't go through, because Jack has already blocked her. Of course, what happened leaves Heather devastated. When she meets up with her friends, she tells them everything, and together they try to figure out the real reason behind Jack's sudden disappearance. To them, the only logical explanation is that he was running away from his relationship with Heather. Later, at work, we see Heather still weighed down by sadness. She eventually returns to her father's house, where they have a deep conversation. Heather asks him how he dealt with her mother walking out when she was a child. For context, Heather's mother was an architect who left home and abandoned Heather when she was just 10 years old. Her father tells her that the first thing he had to understand was that he wasn't the reason her mother left. Neither was Heather. He could never truly make sense of her way of thinking. He says he had two choices: to hate her for leaving, or to love her for giving him the greatest gift of his life, his daughter, Heather, the best girl in the whole world. He advises Heather to look at the positive side and not let this boy destroy her life. A little while later, Heather talks to her friends over the phone, and Kenny tells her that it looks like Rafe is about to propose soon. After that, Heather opens up to her dad again and admits she isn't sure if she wants to keep her current job. He asks her why she's staying in it if she doesn't want it. Heather confesses she's afraid of disappointing him, but her father replies that he'd only be disappointed if she chose to keep doing something she didn't love. Heather tells him that when she was with Jack, she didn't worry about the future. She was simply living in the moment. Her father explains that that's what freedom feels like and reminds her that Jack gave her a beautiful experience. He encourages her to hold on to the positive side of it, live her life freely, and enjoy the present. Not long after, Heather sends Jack a message. She tells him that she tried to solve the mystery of his sudden disappearance but couldn't find an answer. She says she believes it's finally time to move on, and wherever he is, she wishes him well. Around that time, Heather receives a message from Kenny announcing that she's finally getting married to Rafe and inviting everyone to the wedding. On the wedding day, we see the same opening scene from the beginning of the film. It turns out, of course, that it isn't Heather's wedding at all. The ceremony goes smoothly, filled with joy and celebration from everyone present. A beautiful atmosphere I wish for all of you, dear viewers. While Heather is dancing with Rafe, she asks him about Jack. Rafe tells her that Jack had sent him a gift along with a letter, but didn't say anything else. He then steps inside the house, brings the letter, and explains that he hasn't read it. When Heather opens it, Jack's words come to life. "Heather, I know that disappearing at the airport was an unforgivable mistake. Watching you board that plane alone was the hardest moment of my life. But in that instant, I felt I had no choice. I had hidden from you my illness, my fear of the cancer returning. When it came back so suddenly, my future became uncertain. I realized I could never ask you to witness my end. I had to walk away and let you go, to give you the chance to find happiness. And yet, I miss you terribly. With every passing month, my thoughts of you have only grown stronger. Those few days we shared together have become a film I replay in my mind over and over, so the memories don't fade. I've come to understand that all my travels, all my searching in the journals, were never really about history. They were my escape from the truth. Those journals weren't a cure, nor a path to peace. They were a map leading me to you. I still keep them and read them with new eyes, because your presence made every struggle worth it. You gave me the strength to face whatever lies ahead. Love alone is what allows us to dance in the face of death." At that moment, Heather remembers their conversation about the village where people dance for 6 days straight in their festival, Santa Pau. Determined, she decides to travel there to find Jack. She bids farewell to her friends and sets off once more in search of love. She arrives at the village, where the locals are joyfully celebrating their festival. Heather wanders through the crowd, her heart pounding, wishing for just one last chance to see Jack. And then, at last, her eyes find him. She can hardly believe it. Finally, her hand reaches for the man she loves, and her eyes meet his. At long last, the two of them will dance in the face of death. Jack tells her softly, "I left you. I disappeared because I was afraid of stealing your future. I don't have much time left to live. Heather looks at him and replies, do you remember what you told me? To dance in the face of death. That's exactly what we're going to do, Jack. The film closes with Heather whispering, I love you, and Jack answering, I love you too. This film made me cry through its final act, leaving me with a profound sense of reflection about life itself. Is the true meaning of it all to constantly worry about the future, or simply to live fully in the moment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think. I genuinely care about hearing from you. Love you all. Stay safe. Goodbye.